comments or agreements or disagreements. Listen, if you don't ask me a question, I'll ask myself, so you better ask me.
Well, in the first place, I really enjoyed your talk.
Thank you. Good.
It's so well done in so many ways. But I'd like to go back to the beginning of your talk and ask a question which is very important to me.
Okay.
Can adult men change?
Well, actually, I have to say that this question of whether adults change or not is, I used to teach a course in adult development, and I would ask this question, and I would ask students to put on a card what they thought. Because everybody who gets married thinks they can make the other person change. So all of us believe that we can bring about change. And then at the end of the course, we revisited the question. It depends what aspect of life we're talking about. The best research on this is done by George Vaillant. His newest book is Aging Well, but he took the grant study of Harvard that was started by the grants, and they took men and followed them every 5 years from the time they were college students till the 60s. George Vaillant took over the study, and he looked at defense mechanisms. You can change careers, he said, but what about our defense mechanisms? And what he found, in general, you can predict, the psychiatrists who did the study, they could predict, well, this person's going to be well-adjusted at 60 or not. But there were some surprises. Some of the people changed. Some of the people who had immature defense mechanisms, through the good luck of a good partner, could change. So, in general, no, according to George Vaillant, but yes, there are cases where you can change. Again, we can change our dress style, our hairstyle, but whether we can change our inner needs and our defense mechanisms, that's more difficult. I think, yes.
I'm wondering if you could comment on what happens to people who maybe not psychologically prepared, but think they prepared economically, and then in today's economy, A, your nest egg, let's say, disappears or is greatly lessened, and B, your career ends a lot sooner than you thought it would. What would you advise in those cases?
Well, I wish I could remember what I wrote. I just published a little article called Surviving in Troubled Times. And we have, I'll come to you.
Repeat the question.
What?
Repeat
The question. What about people who are forced into retirement or can't retire because of these economically troubled times?
And their money situation is not what they thought it
Right.
would because they've lost.
So they hold their jobs, they cling, it's called clinging to your job. They cling to their jobs because they can't give them up. Or if they're forced out, there they are and they need money. I think it's complicated and depends on the person. But simple advice that I would give, if you are out of work, you set aside, and you need to work, you set aside 2 days a week. 5 days a week, you look for a job. You do the networking. 2 days a week, you set up an internship for yourself in a company or organization you want to work for. And you volunteer, and you become essential to that group. Or you borrow money if you're lucky to have parents who can be part of the stimulus package, and you borrow money and you go back to school. You use the time. Now, for those who can't leave their jobs and have held on to them, and they had planned to retire, so this is the time to start doing some other things in addition to your job. You build in time to try and experiment with some new things. Don't waste the time. This economy, hopefully, is on the way back. Things are looking up, but